Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Uncharted 1 Crushing Difficulty walkthrough, and this is Chapter 6, also known as Unlocking the Past. And this is actually quite a fun chapter. It's very hard at times. This first combat sequence can be quite grueling if you get unlucky, but I will do my absolute best to help you through it. So the first thing you want to do when you come out here is duck down behind this old pillar thingy, because as you can see, two guys spawn in from in front of you, and I think it's two guys spawn in up on the walkway. So we take down one of them with a headshot, and we just wait for his friend to stick his little head out. You can see it peeking right over there, and down he goes. And when you start going up the stairs, there will be another spawn, and I tried running up and I got murked every time. So what I recommend you do is you start running up the stairs, and when you get to this little platform halfway up, jump down immediately. As soon as you get up there, jump down and duck down behind the pillar you were behind in the first sequence. So I move over there, and now you can just do this rinse and repeat what you did from the first spawn. But this goes on for a little while, so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about E3. E3 has reached its end, and it has been a great E3 this year. I went down to my local GameStop today, and I have pre-ordered a bunch of new games. I pre-ordered, I think it was 4 or 5 games. And some of them I will be covering on this channel. Among others, I pre-ordered Wolfenstein 2, which I will be covering, and also Dishonored Death of the Outsider. If there is a ghost or a shadow and clean hands trophy in that game, I will show you how to get it. And I assume that there is Eber difficulty on the new Wolfenstein, and I will also try to cover how to get that as well. And I really liked the trailer for the new Wolfenstein game. I saw that Blazkowicz nowadays has a vertical scar over one of his eyes, and that really made me laugh, because a few years ago I started Wolfman's vertical scar game theory. That was very when it doesn't hold together. I can't think of the word right now. Because in my experience in video games, when they want to show you that someone is really badass and he doesn't take shit from anyone, then he has a big vertical scar over one eye. And there are quite a few examples of this in video games. There is Auron from Final Fantasy X, the only badass character in your posse, or in my opinion. And also Rikimaru from the Tenshu Stealth Assassin series, Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 2 and onwards, I think. And also a bunch of other characters. I can't think of any right now, but if you know any more, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any input against this theory or towards this theory, please let me know in the comments. It would be really fun to read. And it's always great to get a discussion going, especially about nerdy subjects like video games and the different visual tells in video games. And I also pre-ordered a new Metro game, Metro Exodus, that will be releasing hopefully early 2018. Because I'm a big fan of the series. I loved both Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. Also a big fan of the books, and if you haven't read them and you like reading books, I absolutely read them. They are awesome books. There are 2 right now, Metro 2033 and 2034, and I think there is a Metro 2035 out now in English. I'm still waiting for the Swedish translation of it. I do read books in English from time to time, but I prefer reading them in Swedish, because it's always easier that way to read in your first language, so to say. And I may be covering Metro on this channel. I'm not quite sure, because I read about it that it will feature quite large non-linear stages, and which is a great aspect if you want to play it, but it can be quite hard if to make a walkthrough for it. But I'm gonna play through it first myself, and then I'll see what I'll do. But I will be covering the new Dishonored game, and I will be covering Wolfenstein at least. Because it's quite interesting when you make a walkthrough for a game. I realized this when I started my channel a few months ago, that you approach a game differently when you are in the process of making a walkthrough. Because I realized when I played The Last of Us, because when I play it just for my own enjoyment, I played it a different way than I did when I recorded my walkthrough for it, because I like to pan the camera around me at all times and keep an eye on where all the clickers and scavengers and all that shit is. But when you do a walkthrough, you can't have the camera circling around you constantly, because that would be very hard to watch, probably a bit nauseating as well. So when you play a game to make a walkthrough, you have to think about what you do, and also do some experimenting. Try to find the easiest way to get past certain parts of the game. Because the point of a walkthrough is to help other players. There are walkthroughs and there are playthroughs. And I can get quite annoyed when I'm sitting on YouTube, because I enjoy watching walkthroughs, I enjoy watching playthroughs and speedruns and all different types of video game related material. But I don't like when people post that, oh, this is a walkthrough, and it's their first playthrough of a game. They have no idea, because that is lying to your viewers. Because people go to a walkthrough usually, I guess, because they need help. They want help to get past a certain puzzle or a certain combat sequence. I think combat sequences are the most common way, or the common reason why people go to walkthroughs.
The hell is she?
And then it's my job as a walkthrough creator to help you as much as I can, show you the least skill-based ways that I can find to get you through that combat sequence. But if I'm making a video that consists of me doing 15 perfect headshots because I am at a certain skill level, that won't help you unless you are at the same skill level as I am. And if you are at my skill level, you don't need my walkthrough. So that is something that is very important when you make a walkthrough too. Asked a friend what he thinks is important in a walkthrough, and he said it's supposed to be educational. And I know what he means, because it is in a way educational. I show you the tricks I have found that make it as easy as possible, and also hopefully an easy way to follow them. But this combat sequence we're in right now, this is a great place to be in, this little corridor, because there is some ammo behind me, and it's a great place to bottleneck enemies. They have a really hard time getting in here. Some of them will try to rush you, but also here you are completely safe from the giant turret up there gunning me down through the foliage. And as I've said before, the turrets don't do that much damage, but get caught by enough bullets and it will rip you to shreds. So it's best to just stay in here, take down all the little foot soldiers trying to rush you. Most of them will not try to go all the way in here. Most of them will just stay out there. But until you have thinned out the ranks, just stay in here, and then you can focus on Mr. Turret Guy. And I think that on his left side, your right, there is an explosive barrel that you can shoot to take him out. And the best part about that turret is that we get to man it in a few seconds, or in a few minutes actually. So I pick up a little bit more ammo, and I think I've taken out most of these guys, so it's time to take out the turret guy. And I think you can see just over to in the right side of that arch he's standing in, I think you can see the outline of an explosive barrel, so try to go for that. And also, if you shoot directly at him, he will do his little sidestep, which you will see me do, and he will let go of the turret, and that's when you can take him out, because he is standing behind a huge shield. So I know now he is the only guy left, so I try to use the cover trick. Doesn't work perfectly in this game. I mentioned it before, it's worth mentioning again. You can see I was completely hidden by this pillar in all actuality, and still he managed to hit me in some way. But I shoot that shield, he does his little sidestep, and I can now take my time, because I don't think he will try to go for the turret again. Now he will just fuck about and try to gun you down with his normal pistol. So try to line up a shot. Can be a little bit difficult because he is quite far away and there is quite a spread on the AK. Apparently tried to throw a grenade. So that's how I took him out. May not work out exactly the same way for you, but just be patient and be sure of your ability to take him down. That got really messy. I'm sorry. Sometimes my brain just blacks out and malfunctions. But we are continuing onwards up these stairs, and we're gonna gun down all his little friends that have been just sitting around in the corridor waiting for you to make an entrance. So don't be too hasty when you go in here. Instead, we're gonna switch the shoulder on which we have our rifle, and we'll go in here and start mowing them down. There is one or two fat guys coming in with shotguns, and as we all know, as long as they don't get too close, they aren't a big threat. So while we have the opportunity of distance, or the advantage of distance, we try to suppress him and take him down so he can't get close. And there is also one guy sitting in one of the little archways on one of the balconies there to your right. So don't advance too far into this corridor because he will shoot you in the back. So for once, blind firing worked somewhat. Yeah, two fat guys. So we throw in a grenade, take out one of them, and we can mow down his friend. And now we just have this guy left. Nope, fat boy survived. And they just keep on coming. I actually had forgotten how many enemies there were here, but at least the Tubbo was softened up by the grenade. We'll do a little headshot on him. So he drops his grenade and a little headshot there, and then we can continue onwards. And I think there is a checkpoint when you reach the turret. I'm not quite sure. There is a checkpoint when you run up the stairs. But I think there is another one when you reach the turret, but I'm not 100% sure. But the turret sequence is quite easy, because you have the advantage of a bulletproof shield, and as long as you're aggressive with the turret, they will not be able to kill you, hopefully. They can if you're really unlucky, but hopefully they won't. And how many of you have had this happen to you if you played this game before? I also like to shoot out that barrel, so no one manages to hit that while I'm standing here and I die from the explosion. So that is a good note to remember. But how many has happened to that you man the turret, the aim goes for the roof, or I think the aim moves but the barrel is pointed to the roof and nothing happens? I think it's a quite common glitch in this game. It has happened to me a few times when I play this game. It's so annoying when it happens, but this time, thankfully it worked out great. And also there are a bunch of enemies spawning in on that walkway, so try to cover all angles. Most of them will try to rush you from your front, but there are some guys coming from the left, so as soon as they pop up there, gun them down and then focus on the main hall. And now we got them past the hardest parts of this chapter, and soon we are going into chapter 7. There is a lot that can be said about chapter 7. None of it is positive. But I'm gonna talk about that when we get there. It's one of those things that I can get hung up on. But I try to not talk about it too much before we get there. And in here you see that graded door. You go over here and interact with a helmet, and you go into a cutscene, and then a fat guy jumps in and he says right between the eyes, so we put one right between his eyes, just as he wanted. And he is the only one that spawns in here, so we can continue onwards, and we are getting quite close to the end of chapter 6 right now. And the hardest part of chapter 6 is that first combat. If you manage to get past that area by hiding behind that pillar, you're gonna get through the rest of this, no problem. And here there are 3 enemies spawning in. As soon as this little cutscene ends, 2 enemies will rush you, and there is a 3rd guy waiting in the wings. So you saw a little transition there. I got caught by surprise the first time. I had forgotten about them. That's why you should do practice runs before you start recording, because it can alleviate some of the choppiness in your videos. But as soon as they spawn in, run back to this position and use the cover once more, and then we go forward, and there's a 3rd guy over here on the right. So I run back here. I wasn't quite sure if there was just 1 guy or 2 guys, and I clip on the little doorway. Really annoying when that happens, especially when you know that an enemy may be rushing you any second. And as I aim for this guy, he pops out, and thankfully I managed to gun him down before he takes me out. And now you've gotten past all the action parts of this chapter. Now all we have to do is some platforming, and then we're going on to chapter 7. And chapter 7 can be a run stopper, just so you know. But once again, shut up, Wolfman. Stop talking about chapter 7. We're not there yet. And I don't want to deter you. It's not amazingly difficult. It's just very luck based. And when you get there, don't get frustrated, because it's not your fault. Always remember, it's not your fault. I'm starting to sound like Robin Williams and Matt Damon. And I hopefully you get the movie reference. I know at least some of you will. But it's not your fault. But now all we have to do is some platforming, which can be difficult because sometimes the camera doesn't cooperate and sometimes the controls don't cooperate, as you could see right there. I wanted him to go down on this side, but he was like, no, I'm gonna backtrack. So we just climb over here, and you see those cover parts that start falling apart. They always crumble as soon as you jump off, it seems, but I realized first time I played this game, if you hang on to it for too long, it will crumble while you're hanging from it. It's not a timed sequence in that sense. So that is the end of chapter 6. I hope I managed to help you, but either way, I want to thank you very much for watching. And I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.